Kendra Bonnet with another in our series of Writing in 5 videos. To get the right word in the right place is a rare achievement. To condense the diffused light of a page of thought into the luminous flash of a single sentence is worthy to rank as a prize composition just by itself. Anybody can have ideas. The difficulty is to express them without squandering a quire of paper on an idea that ought to be reduced to one glittering paragraph. So wrote Mark Twain in a letter to Emmeline Beach on February 10, 1868. Emmeline was a 17-year-old daughter of Moses S. Beach, owner of the New York Sun paper. Twain, then 31, had met the father and daughter on board the Quaker City, sailing en route to the Mediterranean. I'm currently searching for a copy of the 1996 publication, Mark My Words, Mark Twain on Writing, and when I get it, I'll do another Writing in 5 on advice from Twain. But this Twain quote put me on a quest for a quick tip about the paragraph, and for that I turned to Sheridan Baker and his book, The Practical Stylist, written for the English student who, in Baker's words, must face a blank page and the problems of exposition. He goes on to explain that expository writing comes down to two basic problems. The first is one of form. The second, one of style. And even form is a spatial styling, since in general, writing well is writing in style. I have found it practical to teach writing almost as a tactile art, in which the student learns how to shape his material and bring out the grain to best advantage. For this Writing in 5, I decided to focus on Chapter 3 of the Practical Stylist, Paragraphs. I've broken this Writing in 5 into 2 videos because I've chosen to give you more background than usual. As you will see, this book has special meaning for me. The Practical Stylist was a popular handbook for high school and college students for more than 30 years, as evidenced by the 8 editions that came out between 1962 and 1997. During that time, more than 300,000 copies were sold, and you can still find used copies on Amazon. My own is from the 9th printing in 1966 of the first edition. It was a required text of my favorite English teacher, Bain Kelly, and his 10th grade English class. To place this all in context, yep, that's me in my first car in the senior parking lot at Greenwich Academy. Too bad I'm not clutching a copy of Practical Stylist. Mine is a threadbare thing today. It has accompanied me as I moved from my home in Connecticut to Arizona State for my undergraduate years, to Williamsburg, Virginia for my master's, and then back across the country to Santa Barbara for my doctoral studies. The battered little book accompanied me to San Francisco as I looked for a job as a writer and editor, and where I first met my co-author and present business partner, Matilda Butler. The book came home with me to Connecticut in 1986 and survived 3 moves within the state, and today sits on the shelf in my study here in Maine. And who knows what the future holds for the book and me. Sheridan Warner Baker, born in 1918, was an educator, author, editor, and poet. His poems were published in The New Yorker. He was a scholar of 18th century literature and a well-regarded expert on Henry Fielding. Baker taught English at the University of Michigan from 1950 until 1984, when he retired as professor emeritus. He was also the editor of the Michigan Quarterly Review from 1964 to 1971. I know all this because in preparing this Writing in 5, I came across Mr. Baker's obituary. He died in 2000. His obituary, however, answered a long-standing question for me. Who was Sally? The dedication in The Practical Stylist read simply, "To Sally." There was no clue to her identity in the acknowledgments, and I recall my sister once saying that she pitied Sally for having to have an English book dedicated to her. Just now, when I glanced at the dedication page in my beat-up volume, I've been brought up short. by my youthful hubris, for I had apparently jotted a jingle for Sally, no doubt while daydreaming in class, and it reads, "Poor, unstylistic Sal was always dangling her participle till Sheridan turned her into a practical stylist." Sally was Sheridan Baker's wife. On that note, let's get straight to the matter and turn our attention to the paragraph. I chose the paragraph for this quick tip because I think as writers we often overlook its role in our style. More accurately, perhaps, I should say that we take the paragraph for granted. In fact, it's a most useful convention. Did you know that only relatively recently have we distinguished the paragraph by setting it off with either an indent or an extra space between paragraphs? The word paragraph comes from the Greek paragraphos, which means to write beside. The text appeared as one long continuous page with marks, or graphos, in the margin used to indicate a change in topic. We've all been taught that a paragraph represents a single idea, and Baker agrees, but he reminds us that a paragraph is largely for the convenience of the reader. There's a lot of truth in this. Consider the readers you know who skim through text by reading the first sentences of each paragraph. They are, in effect, reading topic sentences. And when the writer has done her job correctly, the skimmer should be able to pick up the key points of a subject. Baker proves the convenience factor in another way. He writes, quote, "The medium determines the size of the paragraph." Now this is interesting. Your average handwritten paragraph usually appears to be comparable in length to a typewritten graph. That is just when you eyeball them. But if you transfer the handwritten paragraph into your word processor, you most likely will be shocked by its brevity. What looks right handwritten appears skimpy in type. Similarly, the narrow columns of a newspaper give rise to the journalist's proclivity for the single sentence paragraph. I love Baker's description of this. He writes, "A news story on the page of a book would look like a gap-toothed comb and would have to be consolidated for the reader's comfort." Sheridan Baker didn't have the blog as an example, but I can say that his rule holds up in this new medium as well. I notice that I tend to write in short blasts that are easily consumed by the person reading from the computer screen. I still try to avoid the one-sentence paragraph, since Mr. Kelly drilled that into my skull when I was still young and receptive to rules. Baker tells us to write with the book, not the newspaper, in mind, and gives us two standard rules for constructing our paragraphs. I'll explain what these are in part 2 of Writing in 5 Paragraphs. Stay tuned. As you listen to this and all our Writing in 5 quick tips, Matilda Butler and I hope to inspire you to examine your own writing practices and philosophy. We invite you to visit Writing Alchemy online for more audios and videos. That's writingalchemy.com. In our book, Writing Alchemy, Matilda and I present a revolutionary new method that puts the writer in control of the creative process. We believe that just using the various elements of good writing is not enough. You want to use them deliberately. Writing Alchemy will help you integrate all the elements into your writing effectively, turning your words into gold. Hence, Writing Alchemy. Thank you for listening, and now it's time for you to put reading, dreaming, and wishing aside and get to writing.